Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from St. Augustine, Doctor of the Church, while we read his book, Confessions. Welcome, Catholic pilgrims. Today we will be at the deathbed of St. Monica as she declares her wishes to her sons. Yes, I said sons. We will be introduced to St. Augustine's brother today. We are reading from Book 9, Chapter 11 on page 199. I scarcely remember what answer I gave her. It was about 5 days after this, or not much more, that she took to her bed with a fever. One day during her illness, she had a fainting fit and lost consciousness for a short time. We hurried to her bedside, but she soon regained consciousness and looked up at my brother and me as we stood beside her. With a puzzled look, she asked, "Where was I?" Then, watching us closely as we stood there speechless with grief, she said, "You will bury your mother here." I said nothing, trying hard to hold back my tears. But my brother said something to the effect that he wished for her sake that she would die in her own country, not abroad. When she heard this, she looked at him anxiously, and her eyes reproached him for his worldly thoughts. She turned to me and said, "See how he talks?" And then, speaking to both of us, she went on, "It does not matter where you bury my body. Do not let that worry you. All I ask of you is that wherever you may be, you should remember me at the altar of the Lord." Although she hardly had the strength to speak, she managed to make us understand her wishes and then fell silent. For her illness was becoming worse and she was in great pain. "But I was thinking of your gifts, O God. Unseen by us, you plant them like seeds in the hearts of your faithful, and they grow to bear wonderful fruits. This thought filled me with joy, and I thanked you for your gifts, for I had always known and well remembered now my mother's great anxiety to be buried beside her husband's body, in the grave which she had provided and prepared for herself. Because they had lived in the greatest harmony, she had always wanted this extra happiness. She had wanted it to be said of them that, after her journeyings across the sea, it had been granted to her that the earthly remains of husband and wife should be joined as one and covered by the same earth. How little the human mind can understand God's purpose! I did not know when it was that your good gifts had borne their full fruit and her heart had begun to renounce this vain desire, but I was both surprised and pleased to find that it was so. And yet, when we talked at the window and she asked, "What is left for me to do in this world?" it was clear that she had no desire to die in her own country. Afterwards, I also heard that one day during our stay at Ostia, when I was absent, she had talked in a motherly way to some of my friends and had spoken to them of the contempt of this life and the blessings of death. They were astonished to find such courage in a woman. It was your gift to her, O Lord, and asked whether she was not frightened at the thought of leaving her body so far from her own country. "Nothing is far from God," she replied, "and I need have no fear that he will not know where to find me when he comes to raise me to life at the end of the world." And so, on the 9th day of her illness, when she was 56 and I was 33, her pious and devoted soul was set free from the body. So, in case you are curious, St. Augustine had a brother and sister. At least those are the ones that we do know about for sure. His sister, Perpetua, was a widow and then became an abbess of a convent in Africa, so obviously she became a Christian. Navigius is the name of the brother, and it seems that he did end up living a monastic life with Augustine in North Africa, so it's been very interesting to hear just a little bit more about his family. But on to the bigger topic. St. Monica is on her deathbed and she is consoling her sons and telling them her burial wishes. Where once she wanted to be buried with her husband, now she just wants to be buried there in Italy. She is buried in Rome at the Basilica of St. Augustine, which pretty obviously is named after her son. He isn't buried there, but she is. She was originally buried in Ostia, where they are in the story today, which is near Rome. I think it's about 13 miles west of Rome. But in 1430, she was moved to this basilica. And this particular basilica obviously would not have existed in St. Augustine's day because, well, he was a new convert when his mother died and no church would have been built in his name yet. The art in this church is beautiful and by some of my favorite artists, Raphael, Caravaggio, and Bernini. I'll link an article that talks about the art if you'd like to see it for yourself. The piece over the altar is a lovely painting of the Madonna. At the time of this recording, I've never been to Rome, but my goodness, I feel that someday when I'm blessed to go, I am going to be overwhelmed with all the churches to see. And I know, I can't see them all, but a pilgrim can try. We will pause here for today, Catholic pilgrims. I will see you back here tomorrow, and until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.